This is the numbers at 9 o'clock last night before we got that 5 to 6 inches of snow that hit in that very quick band last night. I don't know how much snow they got in the Orchard Park section where we got 5 to 6 inches elsewhere. It's possible, because it was 6'5" last night, that there's a little less than 7 feet in total that fell in that section there. As we know, it is a record. It was a record for the most amount of snowfall in one part of New York State to fall within a 24-hour period, shattering a record that previously had been held for decades by the Tug Hill Plateau in the area of the Adirondacks. So we like being number one, maybe not number one in this category, but it was a record for the amount of snow that fell in a 24-hour period, which is one of the reasons why operations for cleanup are not happening immediately, because it was a lot of snow. States of emergency. State of emergency is still in effect for Erie County and the communities you see on the screen. City of Buffalo, City of Lackawanna, many of the towns that will continue for the time period because we have a lot of individuals that are assisting in the cleanup efforts, including the National Guard, which was mobilized by Governor Hochul and is in various sections of our region right now. Travel ban and advisory, this is as of midnight. We lifted many communities last night, but there still is travel ban in place for the City of Buffalo, south of William Street, including the downtown section, the City of Lackawanna, as well as the towns of Evans, Hamburg, and Orchard Park, which all still have significant issues that they're dealing with, though we've made great progress in the overnight hours and early morning. The advantage of not having snow after midnight last night has allowed our team effort to get in there and make a big difference. Now, this, of course, is a driving ban. So, once again, travel ban means no travel, no driving in those areas. People are driving in some of these areas, and they're hampering our efforts. These are very, very large pieces of equipment, and we cannot have smaller vehicles next to what are really construction vehicles. It's the equivalent of major construction sites all over our community, with giant high lifts scooping up snow, putting them into big dump trucks, which are then taking the snow elsewhere. So your little Kia, your little Mini Cooper are not going to do so well next to equipment that is ridiculously large. Please stay out of these areas. It is hampering our efforts. And once again, abandoned cars will be towed and are being towed to our lot on the old Sears store. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Road closures. The 190 is open, except if you get off at exits 56 and 57, which is the Hamburg mile strip exit in Blaisdell, and then the Hamburg exit on Camp Road. You will be ticketed because you're entering a travel ban, no driving zone, so do not get off on exits 56 or 57. Exit 55, the 219 is still closed, so you can't get off at exit 55, 56, and 57. If you try to get off, you will be ticketed for entering a driving ban area, which is a misdemeanor for violating an emergency order. And then 219 is still closed in its entirety in Erie County. The 400 is going to be open. It's either open right now or it's about to be opened by New York State. So the 400 expressway from West Seneca to the end of the town of Aurora, town of Wales, where Emery Park is, will be, or is right now, or is in the process of being open. So that's a good sign. Progress is being made. School closures for Monday, I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy County Executive, who has been in touch with the School Superintendents Association and others with regards to school closures, because there are some for tomorrow.
Thank you very much. So, of course, the priority is safety for school staff and students. At this point, school closures for Monday include Buffalo, Lackawanna, Orchard Park, Hamburg, Frontier, Lakeshore, Eden, and West Seneca. I'm sure more will be announced. I know all superintendents had a Zoom call today, and individual superintendents are collaborating with their leadership's team to make sure that they have the accurate information to make the necessary decision to close schools. So I encourage parents and staff members to wait for announcements from school districts, look for local media announcements, and again, the #1 priority is safety for our students and our staff members. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy County Executive, and thank you for wearing your lucky hat. I'm sure that'll be the difference in today's football game. As I said, we have Sheriff's Office Chief Tim Carney here. I know there really isn't a whole lot to add. The Sheriff's Office is involved in a number of operations right now. We were expecting Under Sheriff Cooley to be here, but he had to leave for an operation, so it just goes to show what we're dealing with. This is an ongoing operation. It may be sunny out, but that doesn't mean it's good. It's actually a lot colder than it was in the last couple of days. And as an example of that is what we're seeing in our Public Works Department. So I am going to turn it over to our Department of Public Works Commissioner, William Gary, to talk a little bit about the efforts that were done in the overnight hours, and then our Deputy Commissioner for Homeland Security, Greg Butcher, to say why you really shouldn't be on the street in these areas where we're still having major operations.
Thanks, boss. As of last night, we said we were just starting to get into the Wanaka area on Old Lake Shore Road. That's one of the areas that was really heavily hit. I'd like to report that through the overnight and as of just about a half an hour ago, we're already getting down towards the Angola on the lake area, so they've made quite a bit of progress. The crews are going in on all the side streets off of there. We're trying to make a one-way path right now with one of those high lifts, so at least an 8-foot wide path. That way we don't have to pull off any teams if we need to go in for any emergency purposes. But those operations are going very successfully, a lot faster than we anticipated. The heavy snow last night did slow us down a bit, but the crews, again, they can't say enough in what hard work's being done by all the men and women and all the public works agencies and contractors that are here. New York State has brought in other resources that are helping out. Just got phone with Town Orchard Park, the highway superintendent in the town and the village. Those methods they're using with our contractors and our crews along with their own forces. Everything's going great there. I think every street now is open in the town of Orchard Park, at least with one path. We'll be working on cleaning those up today. The sun today is definitely going to help. A lot of these roads have some hard pack underneath the snow, being a wet laden snow turned into an ice. So it's at best 5 miles an hour on some of these roads, but we're putting some applications on there, but also all these extra haul trucks going across. The traffic's going to help beat that up, and then we'll be scraping them throughout the day. I know the state brought in some specialized scrapers also. They're going to be helping out. But all in all, it's a great testament to all the work and planning that went into this. And hopefully by tomorrow, if you're not in a driving ban area, you'll be able to go to work. The schools, kids get a nice holiday week. But like the Deputy County Executive said, it comes back to safety first and foremost. And today, that's why we're asking you, please stay off the roads if you can. We do recognize there are facts. People are going to need supplies, replenish gas and things like that. But in the north towns, you're going to go from black pavement to hard pack real quickly when you get into some of these hardest areas. And there is quite a bit of construction activity down there with all these equipment and trucks running. So great work. Thank you.
So you've pretty much heard a consistent message from everybody that's up here. Safety, safety, safety. It's our biggest concern. We don't want the citizens to be dismayed by the sunny weather and get an opportunity to go out and see all the high levels of snow. We still have a lot going on, and it is still quite dangerous out there. You heard the Commissioner of Public Works as well as the County Executive mention the fact that these road traveling is at a very slow rate based on the cold weather that approached us overnight and froze a lot of that wet snow. We're also seeing some issues with collapse in buildings. So we have a huge effort of different task force across the most impacted areas trying to evaluate some of those snow loads. We're also concerned with people driving in those areas. As the county executive pointed out, there's a reason why we have those bans in place. We still have an incredible amount of first responders, public works people out trying to take care of some of these things and get the whole community back to a semblance of normalcy. So while it may be clear in the north towns or the extreme south towns, our intent is to keep as many people off the road as we can. We're still concerned about people making sure that in those heavy impacted areas, their furnace vents are clear. We also are cautioning people not to climb on their roofs to try and remove that snow without at least seeking some guidance from a contractor on a proper, safe way to do that. So our goal here today is to preach safety while we continue to bring this snow event to an end. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. We do have the official site where we've towed vehicles from Erie County and the communities outside of the city of Buffalo. It is the former Sears store lot at the McKinley Mall on the corner of McKinley Parkway and Mile Strip Road. Rather than just driving or trying to get there and find out if your vehicle's there by getting a ride from someone else, please go to erie.gov/towed vehicles. We have an updated list of all the vehicles that are there as of this morning, and the ones that we towed as of last night. There's a lot of towed vehicles there from across the country and Canada, because people who were going on the thruway were taken off the thruway and they didn't know where they were going. They may have abandoned their vehicle. So there are vehicles, not just New York plates, but plates from all across the United States there, people who are in emergency shelters. So we want people to understand, if you don't know where your vehicle is, if you abandon it, you should go to erie.gov/towed vehicles, and those are the vehicles that were towed by Erie County. If you don't see your vehicle listed there, it is not in the Erie County lot. I don't know where it might be. It's as simple as that. The city of Buffalo requested assistance last night with regards to tow truck operators so that they could tow additional vehicles in the city. The county put the all points bulletin out, so to speak, to tow truck operators, and we were able to help them acquire about a dozen more tow truck operators. Those vehicles, I do not believe, are being towed to the McKinley Mall site. I think they're being towed to the city's tow area in North Buffalo. So if you abandon a vehicle in the city and you don't know where it is now, you should contact the city of Buffalo to see if they have identified all the vehicles that have been towed in the city. We did offer some assistance with getting tow truck operators to help them, because we know the city, especially South Buffalo, Lovejoy, was hit pretty hard. Emergency warming shelters. Towns of Hamburg and Evans still have warming shelters up. The one at the Hamburg Senior Center has about 85 individuals or so, and there was just another 20 that were brought in there as part of that 85 from a complex on the border of Hamburg and Orchard Park, an apartment complex where they were worried about the structural integrity of the roof. So people from that apartment complex were removed from their complex and taken to the Hamburg Senior Center as an emergency shelter. The Evans Center Fire Hall still has an emergency shelter there, but as of last notice, there was no one there. But we're still seeing problems, especially with regards to potential building collapses. I'm going to ask Greg to come back up, because I know there's some ongoing operations with regards to potential building collapses or structural deficiencies that have the groups that are out there working on this moving people out of those facilities or those homes.
As the county executive said, we are experiencing some issues with the snow load and potential collapse currently. We have not only the fire service from across Erie County, but state assets and resources from their urban search and rescue teams and some EMS task forces to help us with the individuals in those structures. So we're evaluating, currently working 5 collapse sites within the county now. So that raises a concern for all of us. As the county executive pointed out, this could continue as time goes on. The snow hasn't started melting yet. The warm-up won't be until tomorrow. With that being said, we have an incredible number of people out continuing to evaluate structures as time goes on, and we're identifying those and trying to relocate people to shelters or places for warming at this point until they can identify another place to go, until the safety of the structure has been determined by code enforcement officials as well as the urban search and rescue and fire officials.
Thank you. This update from the National Weather Services early this morning is basically no snow for Erie County today through 7 p.m., though we are expecting a couple more inches in the overnight hours. But by having no snow during these daylight hours, it's making a huge difference in our ability to respond and clean up. Once again, shovel smart. This is very heavy, wet snow. You shouldn't be out there shoveling if you have a cardiac or issue of any kind, and that includes like high blood pressure. We did have 2 deaths as a result of snow blowing, snow shoveling issues, and thankfully we appear not to have any other deaths, but please be careful out there. If you got 5 or 6 feet snow of this and you're going to try to shovel your driveway or your sidewalk, you're just not going to succeed. You need really some strong equipment, including snow blowers. And we've been getting lots of reports of snow blowers breaking down because of the intensity and the weight of the snow. They just haven't, their engines are not able to handle it. So if you've got a little small 3 horsepower or less snow blower, if you try to tackle it all at once, you might kill your snow blower. So be very careful out there. An important thing to remember is your furnace vents. If they don't have the ability to discharge their gases, the newer ones will just automatically shut off they won't work. The older ones might actually work, but they're going to potentially push gas back in. So make certain you've cleared out your furnace vents and dryer vents. I've heard reports of people saying my power went out or my furnace isn't working. And the furnace may actually be doing exactly what it's supposed to, which is if the venting is closed, is blocked, it won't allow it to turn on. So make sure that your vents are clear. If you have an elderly neighbor, check on them. As we always ask, neighbor check and go back and maybe clean off their furnace vents for them, because that's how they can get the furnace back on. We are making great progress. We know there's a lot of people out there who are wishing that every street had been open by now, and I just want to say to all of you, we're making great progress. We are not 100% complete now. There are a few neighborhoods, especially in Hamburg, and I believe in the city of Buffalo, that still haven't had plows go down some of the streets, but what we've seen is that where we were as of this time yesterday compared to where we are now, we've made great progress. There were almost a dozen municipalities that had travel bans in effect as of this time yesterday who no longer do, and it's still going to take a little bit more time. As was noted, quite a number of school districts will be closed tomorrow. If you have any questions, you should contact your school district. I assume many of them will be making announcements that are in the travel ban zone of whether or not they're going to be open tomorrow or not. And the same goes for Tuesday. We know it's a shorter week because of the holiday, but it may be that some of these school districts will also be closed on Tuesday as well. Just be safe out there, stay home, watch the bills, and we will all, once we get through it, and just thank some of the volunteers, thank the public works officers, thank law enforcement, thank our fire service, thank all those that are working behind the scenes, because while a lot of people in most of Western New York is going to be sitting at home watching the bills in a little more than an hour, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of people that are outside working right now to ensure that this community gets cleaned as quickly as possible. With that, we'll entertain any questions.
Did I hear you say earlier this is record-setting snowfall for Erie County?
The question was, did I hear you say earlier this is record-setting snowfall for Erie County? That is not correct. It's record-setting snowfall for New York State. So it's not only a record-setting snowfall for Erie County, it's a record set for all of New York State in a 24-hour period. The record was held previously in the Tug Hill Plateau region near the Adirondacks in northern New York, and it dated back to the 1960s, but it has been confirmed that the most snowfall to fall in a 24-hour period in the state of New York history happened associated with this storm. So we're number one. We know we're number one. This is one category we wish weren't number one.
Are there things that the county has had to deal with this storm that is unusual and we haven't had to deal with it before?
The question was, are there things associated with this storm that we had to deal with that are unusual we haven't had to deal with before? Yes and no. I don't think we've ever had to deal with, because of the record snow, that much snow in one time period. But this is very similar to some of the other efforts we had, including 8 years ago with regards to the snowstorm in 2014, which once again, they both started on the same exact date, November 17th. So what I will note is that at this point, 8 years ago, we were just basically finishing up with the snow, and we really hadn't gotten to recovery efforts and cleanup efforts yet. And here we are 8 years later with having had more snowfall in a shorter time period in most of the areas that were affected, and we are much better along, much better along. We were closed for basically a week after that snow hit. And right now, the vast majority of communities are back open, and I'm hopeful that in the next 24 to 48 hours, the rest of the driving bans can be lifted as well. Okay, everyone, thank you. Go Bills!